Jake Morrison sat in the dark room deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The screens around him showed space. Empty, quiet space. He had been watching for 3 years now. Nothing ever happened. Until today, a small dot appeared on his screen. Then another. Then 10 more. What the hell? Jake said. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. The dots were still there. They were moving fast toward Earth. Jake picked up his phone and called his boss. Sir, we have a problem. Something is coming from space. 12 objects. They're big, and they're fast. 20 minutes later, the room was full of people. Lisa Grant ran in with her laptop. She was a scientist who studied aliens. Not that anyone had ever seen real aliens before. How big are they? Lisa asked. Each one is about the size of a school bus, Jake said. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours. Colonel Ryan Hayes walked in wearing his army uniform. His boots made loud sounds on the floor. Are they weapons? He asked. I don't know, Jake said. They're not shooting at anything. They're just coming here. Lisa opened her laptop and started typing fast. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. These might be scout ships. Scout ships for what? Ryan asked. For an invasion, Lisa said quietly. The room got very quiet. Everyone stared at the screens. The 12 objects kept coming closer to Earth. 6 hours later, the objects entered Earth's air. They didn't crash. They didn't explode. They just floated in the sky like strange birds. Amy Foster arrived at the mountain base in a helicopter. She was a doctor who studied how people think and act. The president had sent her to help figure out what to do. What do they look like? Amy asked. Jake switched the screen to show pictures from satellites. The objects looked like big crystals made of blue glass. They had no wings, no engines that anyone could see. They just floated and glowed softly. They're beautiful, Lisa said. They're dangerous, Ryan said. We need to shoot them down now. Wait, Amy said. Let's see what they do first. For 3 days, the crystal ships did nothing. They just floated over different cities around the world. One was over New York. One was over London. One was over Tokyo. They didn't move much. They didn't make any sounds. On the 4th day, things changed. They're scanning, Lisa said. She was looking at new readings on her computer. Some kind of energy beam is coming from each ship. It's very weak. Like a flashlight, but we can't see it. Scanning for what? Jake asked. Everything, Lisa said. People, buildings, cars, roads. They're making a map of everything on Earth. The crystal ships moved slowly across the sky. The invisible beams touched every city, every town, every farm. They scanned factories and schools. They scanned airports and hospitals. They looked at everything humans had built. Ryan wanted to attack the ships. We have missiles, he said. We have jets. We can destroy them. And then what? Amy asked. What if there are more ships coming? What if attacking these makes them angry? So we just let them study us like bugs? Ryan asked. Amy thought for a moment. Maybe we can learn something too. Lisa spent days watching the alien ships. She learned that they were very smart, but also very predictable. They scanned the same places at the same times every day. They followed patterns. I think I know what they're doing, Lisa said during a meeting. They're not just mapping us. They're studying how we live, where we go, what we build. They want to understand human behavior. Why? Jake asked. Because that's what you do before you take over a place, Lisa said. You learn everything about the people who live there. Then you know how to beat them. Amy nodded. It's like a chess game. They're studying all our pieces before they make their first move. Days passed, weeks passed. The crystal ships kept scanning. They never landed. They never tried to talk to humans. They just watched and recorded everything. People around the world were scared. Some tried to hide in basements. Some tried to attack the ships with guns and rockets. Nothing worked. The ships had shields that stopped every weapon. There has to be something we can do, Ryan said. We can't just wait for them to finish studying us. Amy had been thinking about this problem for weeks. She had an idea, but it was crazy. What if we don't fight them? She said, what if we don't? Hide from them? What do you mean? Lisa asked. I mean, what if we do something they don't expect? Something they haven't seen before? Jake looked confused. Like what? Amy smiled. Like becoming invisible without hiding. Ryan shook his head. That doesn't make sense. Think about it, Amy said. These aliens are mapping everything humans build. Roads, cities, factories. They're learning about human civilization. But what if our civilization changed? What if we became something they couldn't recognize? Lisa started to understand. You mean camouflage? Not just camouflage, Amy said. Evolution. What if humans learned to live like part of nature instead of apart from it? The idea was wild. It was impossible. It was crazy, Dot. It was perfect. 3 months later, the first test began in a small town in Colorado. Instead of hiding from the alien scanners, the people started changing how they lived. They made their buildings look like rocks and trees. They made their roads look like rivers. The crystal ship that scanned that area kept scanning. But slowly, it started seeing less and less human activity. To the alien ship, it looked like the humans were disappearing. But the humans weren't disappearing. They were becoming something new. Something the aliens had never seen before. Something impossible to detect. The war for Earth had begun. But it wasn't the kind of war anyone expected. 6 months had passed since the crystal ships arrived. The small town in Colorado had become something amazing. Greg Thompson walked through what used to be Main Street, but now it looked like a forest path. Greg was a city planner. His job was to design how cities should look. But now he was designing something that had never been tried before. He was making cities that looked like nature. It's working, Kate Sullivan said as she joined him on the path. Kate was a scientist who studied how animals and plants were shaped. She helped Greg understand how to make buildings that looked natural. The houses around them didn't look like houses anymore. They looked like hills covered with grass and trees. But inside, people still lived normal lives. They had electricity, water, and internet. The alien ships couldn't tell the difference. The crystal ship scanned this area yesterday, Greg said. Its computers think this is just a forest now. Kate smiled. The people here are happier too. Living this way feels better than living in concrete boxes. Their success in Colorado had spread around the world. Other cities wanted to try the same thing. But changing a whole city was hard work. Ben Clark was in Miami, working on an even bigger challenge. Ben studied ocean life, and he had a crazy idea. What if human cities could exist underwater and look like coral reefs? The aliens scan the land, Ben told his team. But do they scan under the water as much? Maya Rodriguez, an engineer, had been working with Ben for 3 months. She designed machines that could build underwater. We can move half the city below the surface, she said. Make it look like natural coral. The aliens will never know. Miami became the first city to go partially underwater. Buildings sank into the ocean floor and grew coral on their walls. Streets became underwater tunnels that looked like caves. From above, Miami looked smaller. From underwater, it was still a full city. The crystal ship over Miami started sending confused reports to wherever alien reports went. Its scans showed that the human city was shrinking. The ship's computers couldn't understand what was happening. Sam Davis was in Oregon, working in the forests. Sam studied how forests worked, how trees talked to each other through their roots. He had discovered something important about the alien scanners. The ships can tell the difference between natural things and man-made things, Sam explained to his team. But they can't tell the difference if man-made things help natural things grow better. Sam's team built factories that looked like giant trees. The factories made solar panels and computers, but they also cleaned the air and provided homes for birds and squirrels. To the alien scanners, these factories just looked like really healthy forests. "We're not hiding from the aliens," Sam said. "We're becoming something they never learned to look for." In New York, architect Nina Torres faced the biggest challenge. How do you hide 8 million people in one of the world's largest cities? Nina's answer was to make the city grow up and down at the same time. Buildings began to look like mountains and cliffs. Parks became deeper, with multiple levels underground. The streets stayed the same, but everything else changed. "We're making the city three-dimensional," Nina explained to the mayor. "From the sky, it looks like we're building less. But really, we're building more. Just in directions the aliens don't expect." Alex Morgan worked with Nina to make Central Park into something special. Alex studied how to change land to make it better for life. Under his care, Central Park became 5 times bigger by going underground. "People can live in the roots of the trees," Alex said. "The trees grow better because people take care of them. The aliens think it's just a forest, but it's really a neighborhood." The crystal ship over New York began to report strange things. The city appeared to be turning into a natural landscape. But the ship's computers had never seen a natural landscape with so much hidden technology all around the world. Humans were changing how they lived. In Japan, cities became mountain ranges. In Brazil, cities became rainforests. In Egypt, cities became part of the desert. But the most amazing change was happening to the people themselves. Living as part of nature was changing how humans thought and acted. People were healthier because they lived around plants and clean air. They were calmer because they could hear birds and water instead of car engines. Casey Wright worked for the government, watching all these changes. Her job was to collect information and make reports. But Casey's reports were unlike anything written before. "Humans are evolving," Casey wrote. "Not their bodies, but how they live. We're becoming something new, something that doesn't need to fight nature or destroy it, something that makes nature better by being part of it." The crystal ships kept scanning, but their scans were showing less and less human civilization. To the aliens, it looked like humans were becoming less advanced, not more advanced. Paul Evans was a scientist who studied how all living things worked together. He was working on the most important project of all. Paul was figuring out how to make human technology work exactly like natural systems. "In nature, nothing is wasted," Paul explained to a meeting of world leaders. "Every piece of garbage becomes food for something else. Every dead thing becomes life for something new. We can make human cities work the same way." Paul's team created buildings that ate pollution and turned it into clean air. They made roads that collected rainwater and cleaned it. They made factories that helped plants grow instead of hurting them. "The aliens are looking for the kind of civilization they understand," Paul said. "Cities that take from nature can give nothing back. But we're creating cities that give more than they take. Their computers don't know how to see that." As the months passed, something unexpected happened. The crystal ships started to scan the same areas more often. Their reports to their home world were confusing and contradictory. Rachel Kim worked for NASA, trying to understand alien technology. She studied the patterns of the crystal ships scanning. "They're confused," Rachel told her team. "Their scans keep showing that human civilization is disappearing. But their deep scans show that the planet is becoming more organized, not less. They can't understand how both things can be true. The confusion was spreading to the aliens themselves. The crystal ships began to scan in new ways, looking for things they had never looked for before. But humans were already one step ahead. Tony Sanders had been a Marine before the aliens came. Now he worked with all the city-changing projects around the world. His job was to make sure humans stayed hidden while they transformed. The aliens are getting suspicious, Tony reported to the world leaders. They know something is wrong, but they can't figure out what. We need to be more careful. Or, Amy Foster said with a smile, we need to be more bold. Amy's idea was simple but brilliant. Instead of trying to hide from the alien scans, what if humans made the scans show exactly what the aliens expected to see? Make them think they were right all along, Amy said. Make them think humans really are disappearing. Make them think Earth is going back to being a wild, empty planet. The plan was set. Humans would continue to evolve and change, but they would also create the perfect illusion. The aliens would see exactly what they wanted to see. A planet where civilization was failing and nature was taking over. The aliens would never guess that humans and nature were becoming the same thing. By the end of the year, half the world's cities had transformed. Millions of people were living new lives as part of the natural world. The crystal ships kept scanning, but they were seeing less and less evidence of human civilization. The first phase of humanity's strangest war was almost complete. 2 years had passed since the crystal ships first arrived. The aliens were getting worried. High above Earth, in a massive ship hidden behind the moon, War Prime Valtash studied the reports from the scanning drones. The reports made no sense. The human species is vanishing, his aide reported. 2 years ago, they had massive cities and complex technology. Now, large areas show no signs of advanced civilization. Veltash had conquered 47 worlds. He had never seen anything like this before. Are they dying from disease? No, War Prime. The planet shows more life than ever. Forests are growing where cities used to be. The air and water are cleaner than when we first arrived. Then where are the humans? The aide had no answer. On Earth, Nina Torres was putting the finishing touches on her greatest creation. Manhattan had become a mountain range that breathed and lived and thought. The buildings now looked like tall cliffs covered in plants. Inside the cliffs, millions of people lived and worked. The subway system had become underground rivers that moved people like water flowing through stone. It's perfect, Nina said to Alex Morgan, as they stood on what used to be the observation deck of the Empire State Building. It now looked like the peak of a natural mountain, complete with snow that was actually a solar power collection system. Alien ships scanned us yesterday, Alex said. To them, this looks like a mountain that's been here for millions of years. Below them, Central Park had grown to cover most of Manhattan. But the park wasn't just grass and trees anymore. It was a living city where every plant, every rock, every stream had a purpose in keeping 8 million people alive and happy. Maya Rodriguez was in what used to be Los Angeles. The city had become a desert that moved and changed like a living thing. Buildings rose from the sand like rock formations. Roads flowed like dried riverbeds that filled with water when it rained. A key is making everything serve 2 purposes, Maya explained to a group of visiting engineers. This looks like a natural sand dune, but inside it's a factory that makes computer chips. The factory's heat helps desert plants grow, and the plants help cool the factory. The crystal ship over Los Angeles had been scanning the area for months. Its reports showed a healthy desert ecosystem with no signs of technology. The ship's computers had no way to understand that the desert itself was technology. Ben Clark was having even more success underwater. Miami was now half below the ocean surface, and it was growing every day. The underwater city looked exactly like a coral reef, because it was a coral reef. "We're not faking coral," Ben explained to a documentary crew. "We're growing real coral that happens to be shaped like buildings. The coral is healthier because people take care of it. The people are healthier because they live in perfect harmony with ocean life." The underwater city was so convincing that fish and dolphins had moved in. Schools of tropical fish swam through the underwater streets. Sea turtles rested on building roofs that looked like flat coral formations. The crystal ships' deep-sea scans showed a thriving ocean ecosystem. It had no idea that the ecosystem included shopping malls, schools, and hospitals. Sam Davis was expanding his forest cities across the Pacific Northwest. Entire regions that had once been clear-cut for lumber were now dense forests again. But these forests were different from any that had existed before. "Every tree is connected," Sam told his research team. "Not just by roots, but by fiber optic cables that look like roots. The forest shares information like a giant brain. When one area needs water, the whole forest helps. When one area has too much sunlight, the forest spreads it around." The alien scanners saw a natural forest that was unusually healthy and well organized. They didn't realize they were looking at the most advanced computer network ever created. Casey Wright was in Washington, D.C., which had become a prairie that looked exactly like it might have looked before humans ever arrived. Rolling grasslands stretched in every direction. Buffalo and wild horses grazed peacefully. But underneath the prairie, the entire federal government was still running. Underground chambers that looked like natural cave systems housed Congress, the Pentagon, and the White House. The prairie grass hid solar panels and communication equipment. "The aliens think we've gone back to being primitive," Casey reported to President Carter, who was sitting in an office that looked like a natural cave. "Their computers show that human technology is disappearing." "But human technology isn't disappearing," the president said. "It's becoming invisible." Paul Evans had achieved something that scientists said was impossible. He had created technology that was a live dot in what used to be Detroit. Car factories had become giant organisms that grew vehicles instead of building them. The organisms looked like enormous fungi, but they were actually living machines that could think and learn. "Traditional factories take raw materials and make products," Paul explained to a group of world leaders. "Living factories take sunlight and carbon dioxide and grow products. To the aliens, these just look like really big mushrooms." The cars that came from the living factories were also alive in a way. They could repair themselves. They ran on sunlight and water, and when they wore out, they decomposed into fertilizer for plants. The crystal ships scanned the area and reported the growth of an unusual but completely natural fungal ecosystem. Rachel Kim had been studying the alien technology for 2 years. She had figured out how their scanners worked, and she had discovered their weakness. "The aliens are very smart," Rachel told her team at NASA, "but they're also very limited. Their scanners can only recognize things they've seen before. They've conquered 47 worlds, but every species they met fought in predictable ways." "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Lisa Grant. "Every species either hid from the aliens or fought them directly. No species ever became something completely different. The alien computers don't have any programming for what we're doing." This gave Rachel an idea. What if humans could not only become invisible to the alien scanners, but actually confuse them? Working with Tony Sanders, Rachel began something called Project Mirror. The idea was to make the alien scanners see things that weren't there, while missing things that were there. "We'll create fake ruins," Rachel explained. "Ancient cities that look like they've been abandoned for thousands of years. The aliens will think they found evidence of a dead civilization. Tony coordinated the building of false ruins across the world. In Egypt, fake pyramids appeared overnight. In Peru, false Incan cities grew in the mountains. In Cambodia, ancient temples seemed to emerge from the jungle, but these weren't really ancient ruins. They were modern cities designed to look old. Inside the fake pyramids were research laboratories. The false Incan cities housed universities. The jungle temples contained hospitals and schools. The aliens scanned the ruins and their computers were satisfied. Here was evidence of human civilization, but it was safely in the past. The species that built these ruins was obviously extinct. Alex Morgan was working on the most ambitious project of all. He was turning the entire Amazon rainforest into a single, giant city that looked exactly like a rainforest. 50 million people will live here, Alex told the Brazilian government. But the forest will be healthier than it's ever been. More animals, more plants, cleaner rivers. The aliens will think it's the most pristine wilderness on Earth. The Amazon city was built in the trees themselves. Living bridges connected tree houses that were grown, not built. Transportation was by zip line and by riding on the backs of dolphins in the rivers. The crystal ship's scans of the Amazon showed a forest ecosystem more diverse and healthy than any on their home world. They had no idea they were looking at humanity's new capital city. Nina Torres was visiting the Amazon when the alien behavior changed. They're scanning more often, she told Alex, and they're using different types of scans. I think they're getting suspicious. Suspicious of what? Alex asked. Suspicious that things are too perfect. No planet naturally becomes this healthy this fast. They're starting to think something is helping nature recover. This was the problem. Humans had created for themselves. They had become so good at living as part of nature that they had made nature better than it had ever been. The aliens were noticing that Earth was becoming too perfect, but humans had a plan for this too. Sam Davis began introducing controlled imperfections into the forest. Networks. Some areas were allowed to have natural disasters. Some forests caught fire and regrew naturally. Some rivers changed course, like rivers do in the wild. We need to look random, Sam explained. Perfect organization is a sign of intelligence. Random organization that gradually improves is just how nature works. The aliens watched these natural disasters and felt better. This looked like a normal planet again, but they didn't realize that even the disasters were controlled. The forest. Fires cleared underbrush and made the forests healthier. The rivers that changed course were redirected to help other areas grow. Humans had become so integrated with nature that they could make natural disasters serve human purposes while still looking completely natural. By the end of the second year, the crystal ships were sending reports that satisfied their commanders. Earth appeared to be a planet where an intelligent species had once lived but had gone extinct, leaving behind a world that was returning to wilderness. The aliens began to make plow. 5 years after the crystal ships arrived, the aliens decided to see Earth for themselves. War Prime Valtash stood in the command center of his massive ship. He was 8 feet tall with skin like silver metal and eyes that glowed blue. He had never been confused by a conquest before, but Earth made no sense. The drones report that the human species has vanished, his science officer said. The planet shows signs of past civilization, but no current technology. Then why, Valtash asked, is the planet becoming more organized instead of less organized? The science officer had no answer. None of the Kethmori did. We will send scout teams, Valtash decided. If the planet is truly empty, we can begin colonization. If something is hiding, we will find it. On Earth, Casey Wright was watching the alien ship through telescopes hidden in what looked like mountain peaks. Casey worked in a command center that appeared to be a natural cave system deep in the Colorado mountains. 3 scout ships just left the main vessel, Casey reported to the hidden network of human leaders around the world. Each ship carries about 50 aliens. They're heading for New York, London, and Tokyo. Are we ready? Asked President Carter. He was speaking from the White House, which now looked like a small hill covered in prairie grass. We've been ready for 3 years, Amy Foster replied. She was coordinating human behavior from a center in Chicago that looked like a grove of oak trees. Time to show them what we've become. The first alien scout ship landed in Central Park in New York. The aliens that stepped out looked like tall, elegant robots made of living metal. They carried scanning devices and weapons. Squad. Leader Zephyr looked around in confusion. His scans had shown a major human city here. Instead, he saw a beautiful forest with streams and meadows. Birds sang in the trees. Deer grazed peacefully nearby. Where is the city? Asked Scout Talon. Zephyr checked his scanner again. The ruins are beneath us. This appears to be Manhattan, but it's covered by forest growth. The aliens walked through Central Park, not knowing they were walking through the heart of a living city. Under their feet, subway trains moved through tunnels that looked like underground rivers. Around them, millions of people lived and worked. In buildings that looked like trees and hills. Nia Torres watched the aliens from her office in what appeared to be a large oak tree. The aliens walked right past her, their scanners showing only forest. They're scanning the deer, Nina whispered into her communication device, which looked like a bird perched on her shoulder. The deer were actually humans who had learned to move and act like animals. Advanced camouflage suits made them look exactly like real deer. To the alien scanners, they showed up as normal forest animals. Zephyr stopped at what he thought was a natural clearing. It was actually Times Square, now disguised as a meadow. Holographic projections made the clearing look empty, but underneath, thousands of people were going about their normal lives. The atmospheric readings are unusual, Scout Talon reported. The air is too clean for a natural forest. Perhaps the humans had environmental restoration technology before they vanished. Zephyr said he had no idea that the air was clean because the trees around him were actually air purification systems disguised as plants. In London, the second scout team was having similar confusion. Squad leader Mirage landed in what his map said should be the center of the city. Instead, he found rolling green hills with sheep and old stone walls. The humans built this city on the Thames River, Mirage said to his team. Where is the river? The Thames was still there, but it now looked like a natural stream winding through countryside. The water was cleaner than it had been in centuries, because the buildings along its banks now helped filter and purify it. Ben Clark was underwater in a building that looked like a beaver dam. He watched the aliens through sensors that appeared to be water plants. The aliens were standing on Westminster Bridge, which now looked like a natural stone formation. They're confused about the architecture, Ben reported. They keep scanning the old buildings, but they just look like ancient ruins covered in plants. The Parliament building had been covered in vines and made to look like it had been abandoned for hundreds of years. Inside, the British government continued to function normally, but to alien eyes, it was just another empty ruin. In Tokyo, the third scout team faced the biggest challenge. Squad leader Eclipse had expected to find a massive urban center. Instead, he found a forest of bamboo and cherry trees with traditional wooden buildings scattered throughout. This doesn't match our data, Eclipse told his team. The scans showed a high-tech civilization here. What Eclipse couldn't see was that the traditional buildings were actually disguised skyscrapers. The bamboo forest was a transportation network. The cherry trees were communication towers. Alex Morgan was coordinating the deception from a building that looked like a traditional temple. Every few minutes, he sent signals that made the temple grounds look empty to alien scans of thousands of people worked inside. The aliens are looking for the wrong things, Alex reported to the global network. They're looking for metal and concrete and glass. They can't see technology that's alive. For 3 days, the alien scout teams explored Earth. They found ancient ruins that seemed to be overgrown with plants. They found healthy forests and clean rivers. They found animals living in peace and abundance. What they didn't find was any sign of current human civilization. Paul Evans was watching all 3 scout teams from his coordination center in the Amazon. The center looked like a massive tree because it was a massive tree. Paul had learned to grow living buildings that were indistinguishable from plants. The aliens are getting frustrated, Paul reported. Their reports back to the main ship don't make sense. Earth looks like a paradise planet with no intelligent life. That's exactly what we want them to think, said Dr. Lisa Grant. She was speaking from a research station in Antarctica that looked like a natural ice formation. Let them think we're gone. But the aliens were starting to suspect something. On the main ship, War Prime Veltash studied the scout reports with growing confusion. The planet is too perfect, he told his officers. Rivers don't naturally run this clean. Forests don't naturally organize themselves this efficiently. Something is managing this ecosystem. Perhaps an automated system left by the vanished humans? Suggested his science officer. No, Veltash said. Automated systems break down. This is getting better over time, not worse. Something intelligent is actively improving this planet. Veltash made a decision that would change everything. Send the deep scan drones. I want every inch of this planet examined at the molecular level. If something is hiding here, we will find it. Casey Wright detected the new scanning pattern. Immediately, the main ship is launching deep scan drones, she warned the global network. These aren't the gentle scans we've been dealing with. These will see through our camouflage. Time for Phase 2, Amy Foster announced. Phase 2 was Rachel Kim's masterpiece. Instead of hiding from the deep scans, humans would give the aliens exactly what they expected to find. Around the world, hidden projectors activated. The deep scan drones would see ruins of human civilization, but ruins that were obviously ancient and abandoned. They would see cave paintings showing humans, but humans who looked primitive and extinct. Most importantly, they would see signs that the planet had been cleaned by an automated terraforming system left behind by the vanished humans. Make them think we built machines to restore the planet after we died, Rachel explained. That explains why everything is so perfect. That explains why the planet is improving instead of declining. The deep scan drones found exactly what the humans wanted them to find. Ancient cities buried under centuries of plant growth. Automated systems that appeared to be maintaining the ecosystem. Evidence of a species that had created paradise and then vanished from it. Perfect, War Prime Veltash said as he reviewed the new data. The humans built restoration technology, then died out. They left us a clean, beautiful world ready for colonization. But Veltash didn't know that the automated systems were actually millions of humans working together in perfect harmony with nature. He didn't know that the ancient ruins were active cities. He didn't know that the vanished species was watching his every move. Tony Sanders was coordinating global defense from a center that looked like a natural canyon. As the aliens prepared to claim Earth, Tony was preparing humanity's greatest surprise. All units, this is command. Tony broadcast on channels that looked like natural phenomena to alien scanners. The aliens think they've won. It's time to show them what we really are. Sam Davis smiled as he received the message through the forest network. Maya Rodriguez grinned as she got the signal through the desert communication system. Ben Clark nodded as the message reached him through the ocean's hidden internet. Around the world, millions of humans prepared to reveal the truth. The aliens thought they had found an empty paradise. They were about to discover that the paradise was very much alive. The main alien fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning. 50 massive ships descended from space like falling moons. Each ship was the size of a city and carried 1 million Kethmori colonists. War Prime Veltash stood on the bridge of his flagship. As it entered Earth's atmosphere, below him spread the most beautiful planet he had ever seen. Rolling green forests, crystal-clear rivers, and snow-capped mountains that sparkled in the sunlight. "Begin colonization protocol," Veltash ordered. "Deploy landing parties to the primary locations." The aliens had chosen their landing sites carefully. New York, London, Tokyo, and 20 other locations where their scans showed the best combination of resources and ancient human ruins. They had no idea they were landing in the middle of the largest cities on Earth. In New York, Squad Leader Zephyr guided the first landing party to Central Park. The enormous alien ship settled into the meadow like a metal mountain. Thousands of Kethmori began unloading equipment and setting up their colony. Nina Torres watched from her tree office as aliens walked through her city without knowing it. Around her, 8 million people continued their lives in perfect silence. The subway still ran. People still went to work. Children still played in schools built into the roots of trees. "They're setting up their main base right on top of City Hall," Nina whispered into her communication device. City Hall now looked like a small hill covered in flowers. The mayor was having his morning meeting in an office that was 20 feet below the alien commander's boots. In London, the aliens were building their European headquarters in what they thought was an empty field. They had no idea they were building on top of Piccadilly Circus, which was now disguised as a natural meadow. Ben Clark smiled as he watched alien submarines explore the Thames River. The submarines passed right through London's underwater districts, scanning what looked like natural riverbeds. The aliens saw fish and water plants. They didn't see shopping centers and apartment buildings. Their submarines just scanned through the underwater Parliament building, Ben reported. They think it's a coral reef. In Tokyo, the aliens were fascinated by what they thought were ancient human temples. They set up research stations to study the primitive religion of the vanished humans. Alex Morgan sat in his temple office, which was now being used as an alien laboratory. The aliens were literally studying human culture while sitting in the middle of humanity's most advanced city. "This is surreal," Alex reported. "There's an alien scientist 10 feet away from me, studying human artifacts that my neighbors made yesterday." For 2 weeks, the aliens settled into their new home. They built colonies on top of human cities. They studied ancient human ruins that were actually modern buildings in disguise. They marveled at the automated systems that kept the planet so clean and beautiful. The humans watched and waited. Paul Evans was coordinating the final phase from his tree city in the Bandai, Amazon. Around him, 50 million people lived in harmony with the rainforest, while alien ships flew overhead every day. "The aliens are getting comfortable," Paul reported to the global network. "They think they own Earth now. Time to change their minds." Amy Foster gave the final authorization from her headquarters in Chicago. "All units, this is command. Phase 3 is authorized. Show them who really owns this planet." The revelation began at sunset. In New York, Nina Torres pressed a button that had been waiting 5 years to be pressed. Around Central Park, the trees began to glow with soft, beautiful light. Not electric light, but the natural glow of living things. Squad Leader Zephyr was eating dinner when he noticed the lights. "What's causing that luminescence?" he asked his science officer. "Unknown. Perhaps a seasonal biological phenomenon." But the lights weren't random. They were forming patterns, letters, Words. Messages in perfect Kethmori language. Welcome to New York. The trees spelled out in glowing letters. Population, 8.2 million. Zephyr dropped his dinner. Around the park, more messages appeared. We never left. We became the landscape. Surprise. In London, Big Ben began to chime. The aliens had thought it was just an old clock tower covered in vines. But now it was playing a song, the same song being broadcast from every hidden speaker in the city. The song was the human anthem they had written during the years of hiding. It told the story of a species that chose evolution over extinction. Squad. Leader Mirage ran to his scanner as the music filled the air. There are energy signatures everywhere, he reported in panic. The entire landscape is technological. In Tokyo, the cherry trees began to blossom out of season. But these weren't normal blossoms. Each flower was a tiny screen showing the face of a human being. Millions of faces, all smiling, all very much alive. The ancient temples opened their doors. Inside, the aliens could see advanced technology, busy offices, and thousands of people who waved at them like old friends. Around the world, the same thing was happening. The Amazon rainforest revealed itself to be a city. The Sahara Desert showed its hidden networks. The ocean floors opened up to display underwater civilizations. Every mountain, every forest, every river on Earth began to show its true nature. They weren't just natural landscapes. They were living, thinking, working human cities that had learned to be indistinguishable from nature. War Prime. Veltash watched from his flagship as his perfect conquest fell apart. The planet's surface was lighting up with millions of energy. Signatures. Every scan showed the same impossible truth. The entire planet was one massive, integrated civilization. How many humans are there? He asked his trembling science officer. 12 billion, War Prime. The planet's carrying capacity has actually increased during the years we've been watching. Where are their weapons? Their defenses? Sir, the science officer said quietly, I think the planet is their weapon. Rachel Kim was broadcasting from her station in the Antarctic ice. Her message was being transmitted to every alien ship simultaneously. Greetings, Kethmori Empire, Rachel said. My name is Dr. Rachel Kim, and I speak for the people of Earth. We want to thank you for the fascinating experience of the last 5 years. On the main ship, Veltash stared at the transmission. The human was speaking from what looked like a natural ice cave, but his scanners showed advanced technology built into every ice crystal. You see, Rachel continued, when you arrived, you presented us with an interesting challenge. We could fight you, which would have been pointless. We could hide from you, which would have been temporary. Or we could become something you couldn't recognize, understand, or conquer. Around Rachel, the ice walls began to glow, displays showing the transformation of human civilization. We chose evolution. We learned to live as part of our planet. Instead of on top of it, we became something your computers weren't programmed to detect. Casey Wright joined the broadcast from her mountain command center. Every forest you admired, that's a human city. Every river you studied, that's a human transportation network. Every mountain range you surveyed, that's a human industrial complex. Tony Sanders appeared on screen from his canyon headquarters. You've been living on top of our cities for 2 weeks. You've been breathing air cleaned by our technology. You've been drinking water purified by our systems. The beautiful, perfect planet you wanted to colonize? Amy Foster said, joining from her tree grove. That's what Earth looks like when 12 billion humans work together instead of against each other. War Prime Veltash found his voice. This is impossible. Our scans showed no advanced civilization. Nina Torres smiled from her tree office, where alien equipment was still beeping and humming just 10 feet away. Your scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show. We've been studying your technology for 5 years. We know how it works better than you do. You never conquered an empty planet, Paul Evans said from the Amazon. You conquered a planet where every tree, every animal, every rock, and every river was part of a single living city. The aliens were silent as the truth sank in. They hadn't found a paradise world ready for colonization. They had invaded a planet-sized organism that had been watching their every move and learning from them. What do you want? Veltash finally asked. What we've always wanted, Dr. Lisa Grant replied. She was broadcasting from a research station that looked like a natural hot spring, but was actually humanity's most advanced laboratory. To live in peace and grow and learn. You're free to stay, President Carter said from his prairie White House. But you're staying as guests, not conquerors. This planet has room for everyone, but only if everyone contributes to its health instead of taking from it. Sam Davis appeared on screen from his forest network. We can teach you what we've learned. How to build with nature instead of against it. How to make technology that helps life grow instead of destroying it. Why? Veltash asked. Why offer friendship to those who came to conquer you? Alex Morgan answered from his temple city. Because that's what humans do. We adapt. We evolve. We find ways to turn enemies into friends and problems into solutions. Besides, Ben Clark added from his underwater city, you helped us become what we are now. Your surveillance forced us to evolve beyond what we thought was possible. We should thank you. Maya Rodriguez had the final word from her desert civilization. You came here looking for a new home. You found one. But home is what you make it, not what you take. War Prime Veltash Low.